So today I am making a breakfast bowl to get us started with the week. This is going to be quite a sizable bowl that I can eat throughout the week. I have a bunch of different ingredients I'll be using for this breakfast bowl. I've got some spiralized beetroots. I've got some sweet potatoes or yams. I have got some shallots. I've got a whole bunch of mushrooms, shiitake mushrooms and erengui mushrooms. I've got a whole load of cauliflower that I'm going to be using. And I have got some beautiful kale. I'll be pulling more out of the fridge just now. So we're going to get moving on getting everything ready. I will be doing a grain base with this. I've got some barley wheat, and that will be the base of this dish. So I'm just going to get us a pan. And we can start prepping everything. So first things first, I'm going to get all of my mushrooms and I'm going to chop them up into nice bite sizes. I've already sliced this in smaller bits so that when I'm chopping, everything is pretty much the same size. And those beautiful mushrooms can go into a saucepan. Then my beautiful meaty shiitake mushrooms. Whenever I cook these mushrooms to go into my bowls, they just bring such an incredible flavor into the dish. And they also bring so much protein into your dishes. So it doesn't necessarily have to have any form of animal meats or eggs. Your mushrooms give a fair whack of protein. And that's all my mushrooms beautifully chopped up and ready to go. I'm then going to grab a shallot or two, depends on how much onion you like in your dishes. I'm just going to do one for now because I will be putting garlic into this dish also. And I'll just peel these shallots. If this is the first time you're watching one of my episodes, I always have a little dustbin bowl on my workspace. It just makes things so much easier rather than running to and from the dustbin. And I just get my shallots beautifully prepped and really thinly chopped and sliced. I definitely think that with this volume of mushrooms, I would actually go with another shallot. So I'm going to get one all prepped and peeled up. I personally love onions and they just bring such an incredible flavor to the dish. And they are rich in sulfur, which is really, really good for your body. So I'm just quickly going to chop that up. And I should have onion-proof glasses to go with it. So those are going to go into my saucepan. And I'm going to grab some olive oil and get that sauteing. Before it starts frying off, I'm just going to grab some Celtic salt. And a nice generous pinch of black pepper. And you can smell it already starting to sizzle beautifully. So in the meantime, I'm going to grab a head of cauliflower and I am just going to get it prepared to be put either in the oven or in the air fryer. Just depends on what's easier for you. I'm going to cut the florets off as easy as I can. And all the leaves and stems can be put into your dustbin bowl. And I don't want the florets to be too big, so I'm just going to cut them into smaller bite-sized pieces. Probably about that size, because they will shrink once they start cooking. And this cauliflower will go into this dish, but there will be a whole bunch left over that I will use in salads throughout the week. And the last of the cauliflower can go into the dish. I'm going to grab some olive oil. Some salt and pepper. And I'm going to toss the cauliflower in the olive oil and the salt and pepper so that it gets nicely, evenly coated. I then shoot to my air fryer and pop it in the air fryer. It can go in for between 15 and 20 minutes, so I'll set it at 20 and just keep watching it. And I will get that on the move now. Everything's browning beautifully here. And I'm just going to grab a clove of garlic to go in this recipe because I don't feel that mushrooms are complete without beautiful garlic. I'm just going to turn the heat down. It was on full heat, high heat to start. Now that we've started to get the browning, I turn the heat down a little bit so that everything can cook throughout. So my mushrooms are sauteing beautifully. They've got a gorgeous golden brown color. And they're smelling of garlic and onions, all the delicious things. So I've pre-squeezed some lemon juice. I definitely want some lemon juice to be in this recipe. And just make sure it's nicely incorporated all over the mushroom mix. Now, you can make a mushroom mix like this on a Monday, and then whatever recipes you have, you can just throw mushrooms into everything, adding extra protein onto any of your dishes. And while that finishes off, I'm going to get the next thing ready to add to the bowl. So I've got a container here with a whole bunch of spinach and kale, and I will be using some amazing kale to go into this dish. So when I work with kale, I take the thick stem and I just grab the leaves off. And throw the stem away. I find the stem can be a very tough thing to have in your meal and quite hard on the digestive tract. And this puts a great deal of iron, B vitamins, all the beautiful things you need to nourish and feed the mitochondria in your cells. So kale can be very tough and can be quite strong in a recipe. So I always like to cut it really, really finely for these breakfast bowls. You don't want big mouthfuls of kale. If you love kale, you can chop it larger. I like to just make sure that every mouthful or biteful, you're getting a little bit of everything. Kale is such a versatile leaf. I use it in everything. And my mushrooms are telling me that it is time to go. So I'm just going to put that into a little separate bowl. And it can be put into the breakfast bowls after this. There's still a little bit of shallots left over in the pan. And I don't mind that because you get the garlic and shallot flavor into the kale also. So I've chopped it into nice manageable bits, and I'll get that ready to place into the saucepan. And those will go onto a medium heat with some olive oil, salt and pepper, and to deglaze all of the onions and garlic off the pan, I'm just going to grab a bit more lemon juice. Douse everything in some lemon juice. Getting more out of the pan than in the pan today. This is not a long saute. You'll probably saute it for 1.5 minutes, 2 minutes. You don't want to overcook it so that it goes crispy. We're not making kale chips. So we want it to still have that beautiful meaty texture of kale sauteed. Not anything too crispy. And my leaves are softening beautifully. While that finishes off, I'm going to get some beetroot spirals ready. And these are, it's been about 1 minute. These are ready to be put into a separate dish. And that kale has taken all of the remaining shallots and onions and attached to it. So there's not really anything left in my pan. So on a medium heat, I've got some beautiful beetroot spirals. You can just buy beetroots and a spiralizer and spiral them. Lucky for me, in my country, we can buy pre-spiralized beetroots. So I'm just going to be putting 2 bags of that into a saucepan with some olive oil. And we'll just let that saute down until the beets are cooked through. So my beetroots have cooked down beautifully. There are beautiful tendrils of purple, incredible nutrients for your body. So I'm just going to pop those into a bowl. Again, I've made way more than a breakfast bowl requires, but I will be making a large bowl so that I have stuff for the whole week, pretty much. I am just going to rinse out my saucepan, so any flavors that I don't necessarily want to go into my grains stay out. Even a quick scrub. And back onto the heat. And I will grab my barley grains. Just break them up really nicely. And empty all of those grains into a saucepan. again, on a Sunday evening or a Monday morning, probably the weekends are better to do all of this prep, especially if you're working in an office. You can pre-make all of this stuff to last you for the entire week. So my grains are just going to saute with some olive oil. But if you can't get this stuff already pre-made that you can just warm up, I will be going through an episode of going into every single grain, how to cook it. And generally, if you've cooked a grain, that'll last about 2 days in the fridge. So you can make it up on a Sunday and then have things until Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday with the same grain. They can go into salads, they can go into snacks, snack bowls, breakfast bowls. I always have some cooked grains hanging around. And they're starting to coat in the olive oil. I'm just going to place a bit of water into the saucepan just so that I can let the heat get into all the grains, split them apart nicely. And I would love some beautiful salt in the grains. I individually season everything that's going into the bowl. It may seem like a lot, but it's not really. And if I want to use the onions and mushrooms or the kale or the beetroots or the grains in anything, I don't have to season that dish as I'm going. So everything has its own already seasoned taste. And I'm just going to let those saute away. I'm just going to quickly check on my cauliflower. Which has come out beautiful, brown, crispy, and delicious for these breakfast bowls. So I'm just going to place that into a bowl. And that is ready to be put into breakfast bowls and to be used for salads or anything you would like. Even as a snack with some hummus. It's a beautiful snack with hummus. And it's got the most beautiful crispy. When it goes dark like this, it goes sweet, sweet, sweet. It's actually such an incredible vegetable for sweetness. As you roast it, it gets sweeter and sweeter and sweeter. It's beautiful. And I'm just going to let these grains cook down. Until all the water has evaporated. Then I am going to be making a whole bunch of sweet potato. So I generally always have this hanging around in my fridge. Generally, the ones that we get are white in flesh, so they actually don't have the orange flesh that a lot of other countries are used to. But it's still got a lot of carbohydrates and sustainable carbs that don't elevate your blood sugar. So I'm just going to get this peeled away and ready to go in the air fryer. If the flesh of that sweet potato is yellow, it contains beta carotene, which is incredible for your eyes. Provides a lot of nutrients and vital vitamins for normal system functioning. And I can hear that most of the liquid in this mix is now evaporated. So I don't want to burn the grains. I'm going to switch the heat off here. And I've got a beautiful bowl of lovely barley. For those of you who are gluten intolerant, barley is definitely not the best choice, as it does contain gluten. I do find I'm generally stay away from gluten myself, but this versus eating a slice of bread, the reaction is just totally different. These sweet potatoes are so interesting. They start to oxidize really, really quickly. So they start to turn brown really fast, which you don't generally get with the yellow sweet potatoes. And I'm going to throw all my peels into my dustbin bowl. Just tidy up and clean my chopping board around. So I'm going to dice up these sweet potatoes. I want to work pretty quickly because it's starting to oxidize quite fast. And that is enough sweet potato to last me the entire week, pretty much. And then I'm just going to cut it into very small cubes. You want to try and get the cubes all similar size so that they cook evenly and equally. Beautiful sweet cubes of deliciousness. These white fleshed sweet potatoes I find actually sweeten when they're roasted much more than the yellow sweet potatoes. I don't know if there's more starch in that particular vegetable that caramelizes a lot faster. And I'm just going to pop everything into a mixing bowl to get it nicely dressed in olive oil, salt and pepper before it goes into the air fryer or the oven, whichever you prefer. Obviously the air fryer cooks everything a lot faster than the oven does. And some olive oil, some salt, and some pepper. And give it a nice solid mix so that everything gets coated. then into the air fryer it goes. I've got these beautiful air fryer liners, which are unbleached paper. It saves a lot of the cleaning up. And those sweet potatoes can then go into the air fryer at 180 degrees Celsius for 25 minutes. And off it goes. Then out of my pan, I'm just going to put all of my grains. All ready to be put into my breakfast bowl. And then in the beginning of the video I didn't mention, but I have it. So I decided that I'm going to put a little bit more purple into this recipe. I've got some red cabbage. So I'm going to put my saucepan on again with a little bit of olive oil. Cabbage is an incredible vegetable for sulfur. So we've got sulfur in our onions and in our garlic, as well as now in our cabbage. And I'm just gonna grab a mandolin and saute off a little bit of this cabbage. Adding a little bit more purple into this dish. This is going to be a lot more of a purple dish than orange. But at least I then know my purples are covered for the week, for the day. And the week, I suppose. This will be in my fridge for a few days. So I'm getting purple vegetables coming in for the whole week. Just a light saute of this cabbage. You can put it in raw if you like. It will add a beautiful crunch to the dish. Raw or sauteed, whatever you prefer. So all of my ingredients are now fully cooked. I've just pulled the sweet potatoes or yams out of the air fryer. My cabbage was beautifully sauteed. I didn't do it for too long. I don't want it to be too sloppy, so it's got a little bit of crunch still in it. And now I'm going to get to plating. So I'm going to do a plate that you could use for a family of 3 or 4. A nice big breakfast bowl, as well as just a single serving for one person. So I always want to start in the center with a dollop of these beautiful grains. So probably a large tablespoon of the grains. It may seem like very little, but there's a lot of vegetables going into this dish, so it gets quite filling quite quickly. And then for the big bowl, I'll do a large dollop in the center. And I've still got some left over to put into a container for the week. So the kale that I sauteed is gonna be placed, a nice bushel of it in each. Obviously more for the bigger bowl. And then those beautiful beetroot spirals. I made 2 packs, so it's quite a lot. I'll probably have enough to do both bowls, which would feed 1 person and 4 people. And I'll still have some left over to go in a container for the remainder of the week. I then have my beautiful mushrooms. So I'm just going to grab a whole bunch of mushrooms and onions and pop onto both bowls. Obviously a lot more for the larger bowl. My beautiful sulfurous mushrooms, full of protein. Then I've got this beautiful sweet roasted cauliflower, so I'm going to put a few little bits, maybe 4 or 5 pieces onto the breakfast bowl, just for one single serving. And then a whole whack into the big bowl. And I have more than enough left over, so I'm not going to use all of it. And then I've got these beautiful sweet potatoes, either orange or white sweet potatoes. They're gorgeous and crispy on the outside. And again, there's so much left over for the remainder of the week. So all my cooking is about cooking in advance and making sure that you are always prepared for anything, any time that hunger strikes, really. And then I've got this beautiful cabbage, which I'm gonna place away from the beetroots, because I like a color variation in when I'm cooking, so they alternate between all the beautiful colors. And that is the last of my cabbage. So those are the 2 beautiful breakfast bowls, one for 4 people, quite a sizable breakfast bowl, which will keep you full for hours and hours. And then the 1 person size breakfast bowl, which you can top with guacamole or a beautiful olive oil and lemon juice. And that is it, ready to go.